See here. So here I'm summarizing the points what we have discussed in the yesterday's section. When you're writing any function, okay, this is a sample example I already given to you. Okay, I shown to you. So when you're writing any function, so whenever the call is occurred, then control goes to the calling function. When the function is called, then the fragment of code will be executed. After the completion of this fragment of code, it will get back. But here, if you observe that here, we invoked one more function, then immediately control goes to that here. Okay, function 2, and rest of the statements whatever we have written in the function 2, it will be executed. During that, if anyone is called, then get back. Okay, go back to that function 3 and complete that all the statements in your function 3 and give the control back to where the function 3 is called, and rest of the statements in function 2. Once the function 2 is completed, once again back to that where the function 2 is called or invoked, and rest of the statements in the function 1 and get back. So like that, the control will be transferred from one block of code to another block of code. Okay, now here I would like to remind some different points here. Okay, recapping that points. Okay, here I'm underlining and showcasing you. Try to understand the points. So while using the functions, we will be following terminologies. Okay, when we are writing a functions, we need to know the terminology. What is the terminology? Okay, a function f that uses another function g. For example, I have written a function f. Okay, so this is the fragment of code. In this fragment of code, another function g is invoked. For example, g is another function called. Okay, okay. So here, when the function, another function g is known as calling function. What is that g? G is called calling function. And okay, so actually, so once again, so actually this f is originally called. Okay, this means, for example, see here. So this is the main method. Okay, so in the main method, a function f is invoked. Okay, so when when you are going to be call about function f, here we have another function g. Okay, this is the g related fragment of code. Okay, when a function f that uses another function. So actually, when you are invoking or when you are executing this function f, we have another function g. Actually, in the main method, which one is called? Function f1 is called. When f1 is called, then control, when the control executing the body of that function f, another function g is occurred, identified in the f. Okay, so in this case, g is called as a called function. Okay, who is calling? The calling function is f. That f is called another function called g. So you need to know about that. What is a calling function? What is a called function? Okay, in that calling function and called function, okay, if you are passing any parameters, those parameters we can call it as an arguments, or we can call it as an arguments or parameters in the declaration or definition on the body. So in the declaration we can call we, so we have the different terminologies that we have. Okay, so actually these are the parameters or arguments. You can call by an argument or you can call by parameters. It has two categories. They are called actual parameters. Second one is formal parameters. Okay, I will tell you during the declaration once again. Okay, and so when a called function returns some result, get back that results to the calling function. It is called return. So when you are written any, okay, after that execution of this g, if you are going to be get back the result to the function f, so here must and should you need to use that return statement. What type of value you need to be written, that is depends upon the g data type. Okay, the g function return type related, that value you need to be written. So that value will be forward to f. Okay, if you are not writing anything, simply you need to use that void. Void means which does not return anything, which does not return anything. Okay, and next, the calling function may or may not pass parameters. So already I told you parameters are, it's an optional. If you need, then you can pass. If you don't need, no need to be passed. If the called function accepts argument, then the calling function will pass the parameters. Okay, else it will not do so. So that means that you are calling a, okay, when the function is called, okay, then you are passing the parameters, but during the declaration, if you are not passing any parameters, so that will make an error. Okay, it will not execute properly. Okay, and another terminology, function declaration and a definition. Function declaration is a declaration statement that identifies the function with its name, a list of arguments, and that it accepts what type of data it returns. So most of the times you can identify the declaration, okay, and definition. Okay, definition consists of the function header and identifies that function that is followed by a body, everything. Okay, so most of the times this declaration you can see in the function prototyping. Okay, so yesterday we have not seen that what is a function prototyping. Now I will tell you so what is a function prototyping. Okay, now see here, I will show you another example. Okay, so see here. So during the function declaration and function prototyping. Okay, so when you're writing any function declaration and prototyping, so what is the terminology that you need to be followed, that you need to be know? Okay, so here first you need to be write return data type. What data type that function is returning, and followed by a function name. After that function name, open parenthesis, and you need to be write a data type and variable. Okay, so if you have n number of variables, then you need to be separate with each variable data type. Okay, variable data type and then variable name, data type and variable name, and with semicolon. Okay, here the variable names is not mandatory. You can write my data type is must and should. For example, addition of two numbers I need to be do. Okay, addition of two numbers means, so in the main method here I invoke one of the method called add. Okay, so when the add is called, here I am passing two parameters a and b, for example. So what is the a and b? So here I am giving that a and b is a parameters in the main method. For example, a value is 5, b value is 6, assume that. Then immediately when the call is occurred, then so control goes to that add function. So here you need to be talk about integer x, integer y. Okay, so here what is the data type of a? Integer. What is the data type of b? Integer. What is the data type of x? Integer. What is the data type of y? Integer. Here it will check that the data type is same or not. Okay, the compiler will check that what data type that we have given and during the call occurred during the definition. Okay, the compiler will check the data type only. You don't bother about that variables are here. You are using that a and b. Here you are using that x and y. Both are different. Okay, don't bother about. No need to be specified that must and should be both are to be same like that. Okay, you can use any naming convention, but type must and should be match. The type must and should be match. Okay, so that is called actual parameter and formal parameter related information. Okay, so once again I will give you the in the following example I will tell you. Okay, and here when you are writing function name is a valid. Okay, function name is a valid function name is a valid for that function, and naming a function follows the some rules. Okay, what are the rules and regulations? The naming of a function. So it's already user defined content, user defined variable. It must and should alphabet followed by another alphabet or digit. No special characters are not allowed. Okay, does not start with number. So like that we have the rules and regulation related that identify the same naming conventions we need to be follow. We need to be give a valid naming convention for the function. Okay, and here I will show you some sample examples. Okay, and see here. So these are the valid function declarations. When you are writing any function, see here. So for example, here converted to uppercase. This is one of the function prototyping. Here you can see that char is a return parameter and function name is converted to uppercase. No spaces are allowed. Okay, as per user defined content, you can use that underscore only special characters, that is valid, and any parameters then mention parameters list and then semicolon. For example, average is a function name. Okay, for example, parameters list, integer a, integer b, integer c. These are the parameters list. Okay, if you observe this, a, b, c are what data type? Integer parameter. So here is a character parameter. Okay, for example, another example, multiply the function name is a multiply, the return type is a double. It takes two parameters, float A and float B. Here A is called variable 1, argument 1. Float B is called argument 2. Okay. And if you have void integer void swap integer A comma B. So here swap is a function name void which does not return anything. It has two parameters, A and B are the two parameters. Both are to be integer for data type. Okay. It does not return anything. The function returns no value. So that's why we have defined as void. Okay. If you are not going to be written anything, simply use that void only. Otherwise, you need to be give specific data type. Either it is a double, or either it may be integer, or either it may be a float, either it may be a char, either it may be a. So what type of data that is going to be returning, get back into the called case. Okay. So in that case, you need to be give the specific data type. Okay. So this is the simple example. Valid function declarations. Okay. Now moving to the so points that you need to be remember. So here I'm highlighting some points to you. Okay. So parameters list. The argument names in the function declaration is an optional. Okay. The arguments names. Already I told you. For example, if you return an add function, here you need to be call X and Y. When the call is occurred during the function prototyping, the variable names is an optional. Even if you return also no problem. Even if you return also no problem. Okay. And that is an optional. For example, here I'm writing that two function prototyping fun C. You can write any one of them. For example, function C contains that three parameters. One is integer, second one is a character, third one is a float. Must and should you need to be write data type and then semicolon. Okay. If you want to be define that variables also. Okay. Integer num, char ch, float fnum. Okay. That's also valid. Okay. So here the variable names, if you observe this, the variable names are an optional during the function prototyping. During the function prototyping, the variable names are an optional. Okay. And when we are defining any function, and it cannot be declared without the body of another function. Okay. I mean, a function cannot be declared within the body of another function. It must and should be written at the starting of your main method only. Before the main method function prototyping, you need to be write it. Okay. And so one more thing is the parameters list in the function definition as well as the function declaration must be matched. The parameters. Suppose if you are passed three parameters declaration, in the definition also must and should be, you need to be give three and must and should be matched with the same data type. Okay, for example, you have written that integer, another one is a float, another one is a char. Assume that. Okay, so for example, this is a function C. Okay, this is a call occurred. So in the main method, so you have written this. If you pass these type of parameters, integer parameter X, float F, char C, you passed. Okay, during the declaration and definition, you have written that first parameter is float and sec float F I have written. Okay, char C I have written and integer X I have written. So what is the function name? Function C. Okay, and I opened that body of that function body. Okay, it will check that integer is matched to float. No, the order is also must and should be same. The order is also must and should be same. What is the order you have written? Integer float char. What is the order you have called? Float char integer. This is an invalid case. You must and should write that same order case. You need to be write it. Okay, this must and should be, you need to be remember. Okay, the parameters list in the function definition as well as the declaration must and should be a match with that variables what you have passed in that statement. Okay, I hope this statement is clear to you. Okay, I'm moving to the next one. Suppose if you don't have any parameters, simply leave it. Otherwise, you can mention that void, which does not mean you don't have any parameters. The function having a void is nothing but its parameters list cannot accept any value. Or you can write either this case or either this one. So both are if you don't have. Okay. And when you are specifying that function body, so here I'm giving that definition, function definition. When you're defining any function body, it has two properties. One is header, second one is body. First one is header, second one is body. So header means must and should you need to write the return data type, function name, followed by a parameters list. Okay, parameters list, and then open curly parenthesis, body of the function, this one. So this is called, so this is called function body. This is talk about function header. Okay. Suppose if you put any semicolon after the function header, that leads to an error. So already here is specified, it is an error to place a semicolon after the function header in the function definition. In the function definition, if you put a semicolon, that's an error. You are not allowed to give semicolon here. Where you need to be give the semicolon, where the call is occurred. During the call only we need to be. During the definition, you are not allowed to give. Okay, you are not able to give this semicolon. Okay, so this is about the two parts of your function. So what are the two parts in the function definition? Function. One is function header, second one is function body. Function header is nothing but this is a function header. Okay, function body is nothing but it must and should be surrounded by curly brackets. Within the curly brackets, you need to write fragment of code. Okay, that is called body of that function. Okay, and the next point. Already I told you. So this is a function related body. Okay, and return parameters you need to be write it. I will go with some sample example. Okay, when the function call is occurred. Okay, for example, see in this example. This is an example related to write a program to add two integers using functions. I need to be added two integers. Okay, this is the main method. So here I defined that num1 and num2. So here I defined two numbers. Once again. Now try to understand. I hope this is comfortable to you. Now see here. So here, so we are trying to be add two numbers, two integers using functions. Here I defined one is the number one, second one is the number two. So through the keyboard, I am trying to be read the value number one and number two. I am trying to be reading. Okay. And after that reading, here I invoked my function called sum of num1 comma num2. When num1 and num2, when the function is call occurred, then the compiler will check that is a function prototyping that you have written or not. This is a function prototyping. When the call is occurred, then the compiler will check that, okay, the function prototyping. The function prototyping must and should be, if you return your function is after the main method, must and should you need to be write function prototyping. In the function prototyping, you need to be write what is the return type that your function is returning and function name and what type of parameters that we have. So one is num1 is integer, num2 is also integer. So that's why integer A, integer B I passed, and then must and should end with semicolon. So then the compiler will check that, okay, so function prototyping is, are you written or not? If you are not written, it leads to an error. Okay. Suppose if you return that function after the main method, suppose if you return the main method before the main method, no need to be write function prototyping. Okay. So in this fragment of code, you can observe that the function, some function declaration and definition, everything that I written after that main method. That's why prototyping is written before that main. This is called function prototyping. During the function prototyping, what you need to be write? Return data type, function name, and parameters. List related data type must and should. Parameters name is, it's an optional. AB is optional. Even if you written also, no problem. Okay. And then must and should terminated with semicolon. Okay. Then the compiler will check that function prototyping written. Yes, it is matched. Num1 is an integer. Yes, num2 is also integer. Okay, the function is returning an integer. That means that result you need to be, after that executing this sum function, some value we can get it. That value we are assigning to total. So now we check that compare is the total is also integer. Yes, total is also an integer. Then immediately, okay, then immediately compiler will execute that sum value. Okay, so then for example here I given 5, here it is a 10 I have given. Then when the call is occurred, then control goes to that, after the prototyping is matched, then control goes to that definition of that function. So in the definition of the function is matched with function name, function header, as it is matched. And what is the body of that function? Here we have taken a result. So a and b we pass. One is a 5, second one is a 10. 5 plus 10, what is the value? 15 we are getting, and the result, return that result. So when the value is written, once again control get back to that main method. In the main method where the function call is occurred, here this is a call occurred, and the value will be stored for the total. Okay, and this total will be print here. So this is the back case. Okay, so it will print total. Where the call is occurred, where the call is occurred in the main method. Once again, get back. Okay, so after that completion of all the statements of your function, and same statement, when the call is occurred for the same statement, it will give you, because here you are returning some integer value. That integer value you need to be stored in a variable total. That total you are printing in the main method. So simply we will get 15. Okay, so this is a sample example. So here, what are the points that you need to be remember? What are the points that you need to be remember in this case? Once again, sorry. What are the points you need to be remember in this example? Point number 1, function prototyping. Point number 2, call occurred. Point number 3, body of that function. Okay. Point number 4, return value we are storing. And point number 5, we are printing that return value. We are printing that return value. Okay, but printing that return value in the main method only, not in that sum function. So previously I already told you the order must and should be same. So here we are giving some hint or logic point. Okay, programming type. A logic error will be generated if the argument in the function call are placed in wrong order. You are giving that integer and float, but in the definition you are written that float and int. So if you mismatch any names also, that will generate an error. Okay. I hope this point is clear. And that is unexpectedly or accidentally. That's why we have given some explanation. Try to understand if by mistake the parameters are passed. Okay. By mistake, if you're done also, that leads to an error. Okay, that will be considered. Sometimes it will be considered based on that category of information and okay. So we'll move on to that another point. So already you are familiar with the return statements. Already I told you return statement must and should you need to be right return statement. Okay, the return statement is used to terminate the execution of the return statement is used to terminate the execution of your function and return the control to the calling function whenever the call is occurred for that controller. For that main method or for that function, you need to be get back. For that control purpose only, we are using return. When return statement is encoded, the program execution resumes that calling function at the point immediately following that function call. Okay, see here we have okay, see the reference already given some picture already I told you. So go with that picture. So once again you will get it. Okay. And sometimes the return statement may or may not return a value to the calling function. Okay. Sometimes we can write some expressions also. The expression is nothing but a combination of both operator and an operand. Okay, after the execution, whatever we have, that value will be passed. After that expression evaluation, that value will be passed to that calling function. That will return back to the calling function. Okay. Okay, see, this is an example. So another example here I'm showcasing you. So this is a already prescribed book related example. So here in this example, here you can go with the main method. Okay, in the main method, what we have written. So in the main method, we have two variables a, b, result. Okay, so here we called one check relation, one function a and b we passed. Okay, for this function, and the compiler will check that function prototyping. Yes, the function will return that integer. The function name is check relation. Okay, it contains two parameters and with semicolon. Okay, it is matched. A and b are the both integer. So it's also integer, it's also integer, it is matched. Then once again, control back to that where the call is occurred, where the function definition that you have written. So this is a function definition for check relation. Okay. So in the relation, if you are given that a, b values, it will be verify whether a and b both are equal or not. If both are equal, it will pass return 0. If a greater than b, you are returning 1. If a less than b, return -1. So finally, you are returning that either 0 or 1 or -1. Okay. So these values will be passed to that once again to that result variable. Now in the main method, so we are checking that result value. Is the result is exactly 0? If it is the result is exactly 0, that means that you are specifying that both are equal. If it is equal to 1 means so a is greater than b. If it is a negative number means a is less than b. Okay. So simply to verify two numbers, so which one is a bigger or lesser. Okay. A is bigger or lesser. To identify that are the maximum number between the given two numbers. So using the function, using the flag variable, they represented like this. Okay. Like this. Is it clear? So we will go with that sample example of we'll go with that sample example here. So generally when we are going to be talk about factorial. So yesterday we are planning to work with that factorial. For example, I need to be calculate a n factorial value. To calculate n factorial, generally we are using that n is multiplied with n minus 1, that is multiplied with n minus 2, that is multiplied with n minus 3 up to you need to be reached to 1. For example, 5 factorial means 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So from that number to up to 1, you need to be decrement each and every time and we need to be run. Okay. Is it clear? For example, I want to execute this factorial. Okay. So generally, when you are going to be executing this factorial, for example, here I'm taking n value is called 5. Okay. So now initially, I taken a variable called fact. So initially fact is considered as a 1. Okay. From that 5 to up to 1, I need to be repeat that loop. So for that purpose here, I know the boundaries. If you know the boundaries, then the best comfortable way to access the factorial to know that looping technique is while loop and then for loop, do while loop. We have 3 loops that we have. If you know the boundaries, for loop is comfortable. Okay. For example, I'm taking a loop variable called I. So I is not initialized, now initialized I. So both are initialized. Okay. For I equal to 1. So up to I less than or equal to given number n, I plus plus. So each and every time, I'm going to be multiplying with this value. So whatever the fact that we have, that is multiplied with the loop variable. Okay. So this is the fragment of code I have written. This is the fragment of code I have written. A simple example, if I taken n value called, for example, n value is called 6, for example, if I taken, okay, if I consider n value is called 6, how it is to be executed. Okay, so what is the initially fact value? Initially it is 1. What is the I value? I is also 1. Is 1 less than 6? 1 less than or equal to 6? Yes, condition true. Then what you are executing? Fact is equivalent to fact variable val contains that So existing fact value is 1, that multiplied with I value. I is also 1. 1 into 1, 1 we are getting. Okay. After the body of the for loop is executed, then I will be updated. Now I value is 2. Now once again, if I is updated, then check that condition. Okay. Is 2 less than or equal to 6? Yes, condition true. Once again, if the condition is true, then the body will be executed. What is the body? Fact is equal to fact into I. So what is the previous fact value? 1. What is the present I value? 2. 1 into 2, 2 we are getting. What is the present fact value? 2. Okay. After the body execution, I will be updated. So now I will be considered as 3. Is 3 less than or equal to 6? Condition checking once again. Yes. Okay. So now once again, we are calculating that fact is equal to 5. What is the existing fact value? 2. And what is I value? 3. 2, 3 is 6. So like that, we can go with that I value 3 case, I value 4 case, I value 5 case, I value 6 case, like that up to 6. Okay. If I is reached to 7, 7 less than or equal to 6, it will terminate. Where the result is available? Under the fact variable. Okay. Under this fact variable we have. Okay. Now we will run the same code. Okay. For this purpose, here I have taken a code blocks. Okay. First we will write this one with functions. How we can execute that also I will tell you. Okay. Taken an empty file. Okay. So here I've taken a main method. Okay. And I would like to save this program with a name called fact. Okay. Fact.c. Okay. Now I have taken, I need some number from keyboard. For that purpose, integer, I have taken n, and for loop variable, I have taken, and to store the result, I need fact variable. Initially, fact is assigned to 1. Okay. And I'm asking the user to printf, enter the number. Okay. The user is providing that number from the keyboard. And to read that number from the keyboard, I'm using the %d. Format specifier for integer is %d, ampersand, the 10 I'm trying to be reading from keyboard. Okay. Now I'm using that looping technique for I is initialized to 1, I less than or equal to n. Okay. I plus plus. If you are using an incrementing order, you need to be do like that. So fact is equal to fact into I loop variable. Okay. And after that, simply printf the factorial of, so we need that number. Okay. So factorial of %d is equal, and the result also I need. So I need to print two variables. One is n, second one is fact. I'm trying to print two variables. Okay. So what it prints when I run, suppose if I given an n value called, if I given n value is called 3. Okay. So it will print that 3 factorial is equal to, so that value will print. That means that 6 it will print. I need to be get the statement like this. The factorial of 3 like that. Okay. For that purpose, I have written this statement. %d tells about that n. So what is n I have given from the keyboard? So that is a 3. So n is nothing but 3. So it will print, first it will print n factorial is equal and the result. So where the result we have stored in the fact variable. Okay. And simply I'm running this fragment of code. Okay. Here you need to be enter the value from the keyboard. For example, if I given the value from the keyboard is 3 factorial, that is nothing but we are getting 6. Okay. Now this is a factorial, but you need to be write this factorial logic with the help of functions. Okay. For example, so here I'm writing one function called factorial, void factorial. So what is my function name? Factorial. Okay. So initially I have written the factorial function, but are you given any function prototyping? You have not written. Where you need to be write the function prototyping? After that, I mean, if you are written the function after that main method, must and should, before the main you need to be write it and then use the semicolon. Okay. You need to be write return type, function name, parameters list. I'm not writing any parameters list. Simply I have written I called. Okay. Simply what I'm doing is, okay, simply whatever the code I already executed, that code I need to be here. I need to be place that entire code in that function. Okay. I'm writing the entire code in that function, and here in the main method, I'm calling that function. That function I'm calling. Whatever the function I have written, I'm calling that function factorial. Okay. And simply I'm trying to be run that code. Okay. Simply I'm running that code. What is the number I'm giving? So number I'm providing is 5. What is the 5 factorial? 120. That means that here, so when we run this fragment of code in the main method, we observed that in the main method, when we executing this fragment of code, so here we identified that factorial. Here we identified the factorial. Then immediately the compiler will call this factorial function. It will execute everything. And after that, it does not return anything because here we use that void, and so it will not print anything. Simply terminate that program. Okay, this is a simple program. And how we can return that value, how we can pass the parameters, how we can suppose as a function prototyping already I told you write the function prototyping at the starting. Suppose you have not written the function prototyping. Okay, simply I'm trying to be compiling. Simply I'm trying to be compiling. The latest compilers may accept, sometimes it may not accept. Okay, for example, for example, uh, I need to be pass a value. I'm trying to be read the number from the keyboard. Okay, so in the main method only I'm trying to be read the number. Okay, so here I define the number n. Okay, and I am asking that n to read from the keyboard, and whatever the n I entered, the 10 I passed. Okay, the 10 is passed, and I'm trying to be run this code. Okay, the factorial of the given number. Cross check that any log report. Are you getting any errors or anything? Cross check it. Cross check it here. The function main factorial. There was a configuration related something parameters you need to be pass it. Even though sometimes it may be matched to that n value and n is reading. Okay. Suppose when I'm running this fragment of code, it will check that it will ask you that number. If I given a number 5, for example, 5. Okay. So check that result. 0 factorial we are getting. We have given the value variable value 5, the factorial of 0 factorial. That means that here we have not, we have passed one parameter, but in the declaration part we have not given. It will treat it as a void, which does not return anything. Okay, so it will not, default value of n is considered as 0. 0 factorial is nothing but we are getting that value. Okay, for example, so here I am passing that integer some num if I give it. Okay, and here also in the function prototyping, here I'm provided that integer. Okay, here I'm provided integer. Then so instead of n, I'm using that num variable. I'm accessing with the num only. Okay, and here I'm trying to be printing that num. Okay, so during the function call, what is the parameter I've given? N. During the definition or the header of that function, what we have written? Num. Okay, I want to up to num, it will run and it will print that num and then factorial. Okay, it will print that num and factorial. Okay, simply I'm trying to run this code. So enter the number. I'm trying to be give the number called 10. Okay, so from where I have given the 10 is given from the main method. The 10 is passed to the factorial and 10 into 9 into 8 into. Okay, so like that it will be evaluated. I will give the simple number. Okay, for example, I have given a 3 factorial, we will get it. Okay, this is a simple calculation for factorial of. Is it clear? For example, factorial is okay, but how do we calculate NCR? When calculating NCR, you need n factorial, n minus r factorial, and then r factorial. This is the formula to calculate NCR. Okay. So in permutation and combination, most of the times we are using NCR formulas, NCR, NPR like that. Okay. To calculate such type of, okay, we need two different values. For example, if I given 5C2, how we can calculate 5C2? So you are calculating that 5 factorial, 5 minus 2 factorial, and 2 factorial. You are calculating. So that means that you need n value, you need r value. Okay. So from the keyboard, I'm asking the user to provide the number n, or to provide the n value. Okay. And I'm asking the user to provide r value also. Printf, enter the r value. And I'm asking the user to provide both the values, n and then r. So to read that n value, I'm using that scanf %d. What is the format specifier for integer? %d. Okay. And ampersand r. But are you mentioned that? Are you defined that r? No. So here I'm defining that n and then r, both are defined. And now I'm passing, okay, when you're calculating that, okay, C2. So at that time, for example, suppose if I given 5C2, you are calculating. Can I calculate 2C5 or 4C9? Can I calculate such type of? Can I calculate such type of 4C9?
No, sir.
No, because must and should, n value is must and should be greater than compare with r value. Okay. Now here I am verifying one condition. Here I need to be verify that n and r. For that purpose, here I've written that one condition. If r is greater than compare with n, so we are not able to do that calculation. So it must and should be, it's an invalid input. So that's why here I'm printing that simply message invalid input, because the data is not in a proper manner. So no need to be called that function. Otherwise, you need to be calculate the value. Okay, what is the value you need? So you are calculating that NCR value. Okay, so simply I am taking that another variable NCR. Okay, so what is the NCR contains? NCR is evaluated as n factorial. Already you have written that logic for factorial. Okay, n factorial. Already factorial logic have already written. Okay, factorial of n, that is divisible by, okay, factorial of n minus r, okay, and that is multiplied by factorial of r. So try to understand this statement. What is the function we have written? Factorial. What is the function we have written? Factorial. We are calculating factorial of n minus r, and factorial of r, that is both are multiplied. So that is a denominator. That's why we are surrounded or represented in the denominator. Everything is put it in the bracket and then semicolon. Okay. And I would like to print that NCR value. So printf, okay, the value will be calculated. So what is the NCR value? So NCR is, okay. And what is the value that we are getting? That value I am trying to be printing NCR value. Can I get directly like that? We need format specifier also. What is the format specifier? %d for integer variables. Okay. Here I'm passing already factor logic already written. N I am passing, n minus r I am passing, and r is passing. So both are evaluated after the evaluation. Both are evaluated from this case only. Okay. And whenever the variable is passed, here you need to be written the data type. So instead of void, you need to be written that value to that main method. That's why here I'm passing integer. That's why here I'm passing that integer. How many values we are passing? Only one value we are passing. Factorial of n we are passing, factorial of n minus r we are passing, and factorial of r. So after that function execution, instead of printing everything, simply, okay, instead of printing every statement, simply I am using that I need to be written that result. Where is the return that we have written? So return, what is the value? Fact you need to be written. So to where you need to be written? To the main method. Where the main method written? Okay. So in the main method, to which statement? To the line number 13. Whenever the factorial of 5 is called, that value will be stored. So factorial of 5 divisible by factorial of 5 minus 2. That means that 3 factorial will be multiplied with factorial of 2 and it will be evaluated and it will be printed. Okay. Okay, this is the simple calculation for NCR. Okay, we will check it whether this code will run or not. Okay, simply compile and run. So here I'm giving that n value is 5, r value is 2. Then what is the 5C2 value? Then calculate it. How we can get 5C2 value? So here I'm giving the value called 5C2. We are calculating that 5 factorial by 5 minus 2, that is 3 factorial and 2 factorial. So that means that 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 divisible by 3 into 2, that is multiplied with 2 into 1. So 2 1 2 1 cancel, 3 3 cancel, 2 2 times 5 2 is 10. Is the 10 we are getting? Is that value? Is it clear, everyone? Five CR or NCR or 5C2. Is it clear or not, everyone? Calculation of NCR value. So we are writing that only factorial logic one time. So here, how many number of times you are calculating factorial? 3 times you are calculating. But we have written the code factorial function only one, but we are passing the parameters different cases, different parameters we pass, and those parameters will be evaluated in the main method. Okay. Here we are applied that code reusably. Only one time writing the code, and many number of times we are accessing that. This is the main advantage of factorial. This is the final fragment of code to find the factors, to find the NCR value. Okay, this is one of the tasks of your lab exercise related activity. Okay. Here I'm showcasing the you can identify this part. So one of the week activity here I'm showcasing you. Okay. Under the week 11, here write a function to calculate that NCR value. So this is one of the example related NCR calculation. Okay. So in the next section, we will go with the functions using transpose of a matrix and then find the length of the string. All these things we will see in the next session. Okay. That's about the today's section.